Welcome to the Working Borough Council Planning Committee of the 22nd of July. Firstly, could you wave at the back, providing you can hear me? Make sure the microphone and sound system's working. Right, thank you. A few procedural matters to start with. As you can see, I'm using a PA system, which hopefully means you can hear me. Please ensure that all your phones are switched off or switched to silent, and there is no fire drill planned tonight. As you've probably noticed, the proceedings are filmed, and that will be available on the Wellington Borough Council website in due course. You'll see from the camera position that it's primarily filming the committee members and those people who come to speak, including council officers and the registered members of the public and agents and so on. If I could just introduce the relevant, or the key members of the planning committee, rather than the relevant, that's probably the Freudian slip. Yes, thank you. The planning committee is made up of 9 elected members who are borough councillors. We have 8 present tonight due to one having given apologies. And we're supported tonight and advised by a variety of planning, transport and legal professionals in the form of council officers. And on my far right is Mary Severin, who is the borough's solicitor, who is here to give us any legal advice that we require. Next to her is Tricia Harcourt, who is the Senior Democratic Services Officer, and she is clerk to this committee. Next to me is Councillor Tim Holton, who's Vice Chairman of the committee. I'm Simon Weeks, I chair the committee. And on my left is Claire Lawrence, who's the Head of Development Management. And next to her is Chris Easton, who is the Service Manager for Highway Development. And he's here to advise on all matters relating to transport and public transport issues, highway issues. And the planning officers presenting tonight's applications are sat over at the side and will come up and present each application. The planning committee is quasi-judicial. We have set formal and procedures and conduct. First, the planning officer will present the application. Then I will call in turn only those who are pre-registered to speak. If you come forward and take a seat on the table in front of us here, and press the grey button on the microphone when you're ready to start talking, and we'll all, ourselves and the audience, will be able to hear you. And please ensure that you get your points across in the 3 minutes. However, with the major application for the Carnival Pool, as with other significant applications, we're allowing 6 minutes per category of speaker. It's up to you, if there's more than one person speaking in each category, to manage your time. So if you have 3 minutes allocated to you and there's 2 of you speaking and one uses 2 minutes 45 seconds, the other person isn't going to get much time. So please ensure you manage your time correctly. Members of the committee are interested in the quality of what you have to say anyway, not the quantity. And I would emphasise that only those who are pre-registered to speak may do so. Following the planning officer's presentation and the comments of registered speakers, the planning committee's members will consider the application, will seek clarification and question the council officers, and hopefully be able to reach a decision which may or may not agree with the recommendation that's been put in front of us by the planners. Finally, a reminder that as the local planning authority, our role is to determine valid planning applications using local and national planning policy. Our role is not to suggest alterations to the scheme which might suit certain people, whether they're a good idea, whether they're needed, or whether they're too costly, or whether there are alternative uses for the site. Those are not planning matters. Thank you for your forbearance. We'll move straight on to the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the apologies. We have Chris Bowering, who's given his apologies. And we have minutes of the previous meeting, which members have all had. Are members happy for me to sign those as an accurate record? Okay, and Claire, are there any declarations of interest from any members? Conflict? Bob?
Yeah, as per the minutes of the last meeting, my ex-wife lives in Poperinghe Way, so I have a personal interest, but not pecuniary interest, in any applications around that area. And also the Rockwell Collins application. I'm an ex-employee of Rockwell Collins.
Right, thank you very much. Claire, are there any items to be withdrawn? Shall we have a full agenda tonight? So we'll move firstly on to the planning application that we considered a month ago. That's the one in Wharfdale Road, Winnish, and we're coming to that first because it was deferred last time, and we need to make a decision on that. After that, we'll move on to the Grovelands application. That will be followed by the Carnival Pool application, and so on. So, next question.
Thank you, Chair. This planning application was deferred from the June committee. The application seeks to vary condition 12 of the reserve matters consent, which relates to plot 700 Wharfdale Road on the IQ Winnish Business Park. Condition 12 prevents deliveries taking place being received or leaving the site between the hours of 8 in the evening and 7 in the morning. The application seeks to remove this condition to allow delivery vehicles to service the site 24 hours a day. This item was deferred because members felt more work needed to be done on the submitted delivery management plan, and there was some unease regarding the potential operating practices of future occupiers given the adjacent residential land uses. Since the last committee, a revised delivery management plan has been submitted. On top of the measures included in the earlier draft, which included measures such as prohibiting the use of reversing alarms during nighttime hours, ensuring the delivery bays are open prior to the arrival of vehicles, and a general code of conduct for drivers visiting the site, a phone number will also be provided to neighbouring residents as a point of contact should they have issues. The new delivery management plan also sets out some operational practices of Rockwell Collins and their limited requirement for nighttime deliveries. To reflect this, the new document also limits HGV visits to the site to about 10 a month. We have also revised the wording of the condition to future-proof the situation, whereby if a new tenant wishes to occupy the building and the current delivery management plan doesn't meet their operational requirements, they would need to submit a new plan to the council for approval. This is clarified in the suggested informative. Given the passage of time, this slide sets out a brief reminder of some of the points I made in my last committee presentation. The business park is one of our core employment areas. It is worth noting that other sites in the park adjacent to the residential area are not subject to any planning restrictions in terms of noise levels, hours of operation or delivery. And the site used to be home to the Parcel Force depot, which operated an authorised V8 storage and distribution use, which was unrestricted. The acoustic report submitted in support of this application has demonstrated that the proposed 24-hour operation of the site for deliveries will not be harmful to the amenities of neighbouring residential occupiers, and the environmental health officer is satisfied with the assessment and conclusions set out in the acoustic report. The approved building will comprise offices and floor space to be used for light industrial purposes, with ancillary storage and distribution. A business whose sole or majority activity is storage and distribution would not be able to operate from the site under the current consent. If the occupier of the building were to increase their distribution activities so that they were beyond what could be considered ancillary, then they would be in breach of planning control and would be dealt with through the usual channels. The recommendation, therefore, is to approve this application with the recommended condition, which will ensure that activities on the site are carried out in accordance with the submitted delivery management plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have several people registered to speak. Could I firstly ask Richard Bungay, local residents representative? Good evening. Since you addressed us last month, I guess you're familiar with the procedure. Thank you.
Evening. So since the last meeting, I've met with Barton Moore, who's the agent for Rockwell Collins. Had a positive meeting. I think some progress was made. So they've agreed to upgrade the specification of the acoustic fence. I think helped in part by the fact, as we were stood outside my house, they were reversed rather helpfully, so that they could get the sense of the levels of noise. I think the only remaining gap between us is the residents don't feel the delivery management plan is quite as good as it could be, and I think I would disagree with the assessment that they are limited to 10 HGVs a month. The page 5 of the report says there will therefore be very infrequent HGV deliveries, perhaps 10 HGVs entering the site a month, which doesn't read to me like a restriction. That's a piece of information. So I think at the last meeting it was discussed that the management plan should be linked in with the level of movements of vehicles that was somewhat akin to the environmental report. The second aspect we've suggested to Barton Wilmore, but they've not agreed with, is I think residents would feel more comfortable if the hours of operation were of the delivery management plan were kept from 8 p.m. till 7 a.m. Recognising this is not the official designation of night time, but Rockwell Collins' own representations say that there will only be several times a month where they will actually have nighttime working. Therefore, it seemed to me not to inconvenience them to have several deliveries where the security guard has to speak to the lorry driver. And that's it. That's in 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. And to ask Daniel Osborne or Graham Crook, are you both speaking? Yes. Yeah, right. So please manage your 3 minutes between.
Thank you. I'm Daniel Osborne from Barton Wilmore. We represent the owners of Winners Triangle and the occupiers of Plot 700. The application was deferred at the last meeting in June as it was felt that further work and the delivery management plan was required to ensure that it effectively addresses residents' concerns, not only over Rockwell Collins' use of the site but also any future use of any subsequent occupiers. As we understand that deliveries at night may have the potential to disturb neighbours, and in response to residents' concerns, we have updated the DMP and it now includes the following: further information on Rockwell Collins and how it is going to operate from the unit. Reference to Rockwell Collins' anticipated average frequency of 10 nighttime HGV movements per month between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Further details on the type of vehicles which may require access to the site at night time, which are likely to be light vehicles such as small van, cab, car or motorbike, and also a contact phone number for adjoining residents should the disturbance be unreasonable so that appropriate action can be taken. Since the last meeting, my colleagues have met with local residents, Mr Moxon and Mr Bungay, to update them on the amendments to the DMP which they support. In addition, the owners of Winners Triangle have agreed to meet additional costs of improving the density of the acoustic barrier fence as requested by Mr Moxon, which they are not obliged to do for planning purposes but have done so out of goodwill. We hope that this allays the previous concerns expressed and you can now approve our planning application.
Good evening, my name is Graham Crook. I'm the Business Support Manager at Rockwell Collins. As expressed at the last committee meeting, we are mindful of the concerns of local residents. As such, we have committed to the provisions of the updated delivery management plan presented tonight. As set out in that delivery management plan, our operation will be very light and will not, and indeed cannot, be what I think the residents fear, which is a storage and distribution operation with large HGVs continuously coming and going from the site. We're excited about opening our new bespoke headquarters at Winners Triangle and are committed to being at Winners Triangle for the long term, having signed a 15-year lease. And indeed it's our intent to be good neighbours to those around us. In the unlikely event that Rockwell Collins ever relocates from Winners Triangle, the delivery management plan and condition wording provide reassurance to local residents that the use of the site will continue to be carefully managed under any subsequent occupier. In light of the information and reassurance provided in the updated delivery management plan and the planning condition, we hope that you can now approve this application.
Thank you very much. And
Mr Chair, sorry, can I just add one point?
You've got a few seconds left.
It was in response to a point that was raised previously. It's section 6 in our DMP.
Yep.
We did suggest that we can instruct all drivers entering the site that reverse alarms could be turned off. We can't actually promise that because that is against health and safety. But what we can do is amend that wording to try and promote, to minimise encouragement reversing or indicating.
Thank you very much. And local board members, Prue Graham.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to briefly comment on the changes. It's much clearer now this plan has been devised with Rockwell Collins' activities in mind, and if a future occupier of the site does want to do nighttime deliveries differently or more intensively, they're going to have to negotiate a different plan. I do welcome particularly the change on the very last page of the delivery management plan where a commitment has been given to provide residents with a contact number to use if there's any unreasonable disturbance. As you've heard, there have been meetings between residents and the applicants. It is my belief that everyone is willing to work together to avoid problems. I'm not going to say that everybody is 100% happy, but I do think this has now gone as far as a planning committee is reasonably able to take it. And therefore, I think we've reached the point where the wording suggested in the members' update and the informative is probably sufficient, and as I say, it's not, nobody's 100% happy, but I think we're there now and it can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other board members wishing to speak? No. Right, okay. So we now come on to the committee and invite Michelle as the local board member to start.
Okay, the only misgivings I have is they said 10 heavy goods vehicles a month, but that's during the day or at night. It seems to be changing, that's all. I'd just like to know about that one. Is it nighttime or daytime? And other than that, it seems like they have spoken to local residents and they seem at least not happy, at least designed to do it.
Unless Barton Wilmore would like to say otherwise, I understand that to be overall 10 a month, because the general requirement is for the building to be serviced by smaller vans and then cars.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, perhaps I can assist. A as an ex-avionics engineer in the Royal Air Force and also as an ex-Rockwell College employee. My understanding that the only movements at night would be a small car or van coming down with a critical component that needs replacing. I think the fears of HGV movements at night is not realistic. I think they would mainly be during the day, and I'm trying to recall the HGVs that came when I worked at Rockwell, and there weren't that many. Okay, I don't think there's a problem. I'll be supporting the application.
John?
Yes, Chairman, I think Prue summed it up. We've gone as far as we possibly can with it, and they've been very cooperative, and it's a balance, isn't it, between residential and commercial. Somebody works there, obviously, and I feel that, like Bob, I will support this application.
Claire, do you want to comment on this issue about membership?
I do, thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, the Rockwell Collins' agent has just indicated to us that they need to update the delivery management plan, and therefore what I think we should, what officers will recommend is delegate it to myself to approve the application subject to that amended plan being received, but in accordance with the conditions recommended on the update sheet.
I'm sure the committee will probably accept that, Claire. So I think what we've got in front of us is something that is an improvement on what was before us a month ago. There's greater clarity. I think importantly we seem to have perhaps slightly assisted by improved channels of communication between the tenant, their agent and the local residents who have the potential to be affected by nighttime noise from this. I think a number of steps have been taken in terms of the acoustic work to try and minimise that, and as I think Prue, you put it very well when you said really we've probably gone as far as we can on this one in terms of planning element. So members, without further ado, I'm proposing to put this recommendation forward. As you can see, could you please indicate whether you're prepared to support that recommendation? And that is unanimously carried. Thank you. So that is approved, and Claire will do some dedicated work on that just to tidy up what Barton Wilmore said. Okay, so people who are here for that application, you're welcome to stay. If you've got nothing better to do this evening. Otherwise, could you leave and we'll move on to the next one. Thank you. Right, the next application is F20142611, which is again an application that we considered, I believe, back in May rather than June, 2 months ago. There's an application by Wokingham Housing, and just for clarity, Wokingham Housing is wholly owned by the Borough Council, and it's there to build social housing in the borough. Just didn't want there to be any doubt about that, and also, of course, the site itself Groveland's workshops, and the land there is also owned and controlled by the Borough Council. So Chris, straight across to you. Obviously, since we've had a very significant discussion on this application before, members have also visited the site. I'm sure you're just going to concentrate on the issue about the access arrangements, which were of concern to members, local ward members, members of the committee and local residents.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you're right. I mean, I do have the original presentation if any member wants anything specifically to look at, but I'll just keep it brief. The application before you was deferred in April, I have it here, but it does concern the erection of 6 two-storey houses. As the Chairman said, it's before you because it's an application by the Wellington Housing Limited. It was deferred to investigate whether an alternative route for construction activities could be secured. The routes examined, we'll just quickly go to this, see where we are. The routes examined were through the Groveland's workshops, which is just the left-hand side there of the application site. And extensive discussions took place between the workshops and the Housing Limited. As you will see from the reports and the update, the applicants were unable to secure an alternative route. So in the light of this, it's necessary to determine the application on the basis of the scheme as submitted. The recommendation is to approve certain conditions, including the amended condition 4, which relates to construction management, set out in their update. The reason for that amendment is that we received more information and details concerning the construction method, including the vehicles to be used, the likely level of activity over the period of the build. You'll see from the papers that the most activity actually takes place within routes 1 to 4, which is not surprising because that's when most of the materials will be delivered to the site. And then it will drop quite significantly to 2 to 3 construction vehicles during the course of the rest of the build. Obviously there are also operative vehicles, and you'll see as that goes through, they change depending on the trade that's actually operating from the site. I'd also draw your attention to conditions 7 and 8 of the report, which deal with the limitations on the building and the hours of delivery. So that really concludes my presentation. Recommendation is to approve subject to conditions, including amended condition 12.
Okay, before we come on to that, can we just clarify whether, particularly the safety aspect, whether the applicant is prepared to have a banksman or somebody who's prepared to be responsible for directing traffic and ensuring that the conditions are adhered to?
Yes, I have been advised of that. I mean, I would draw your attention to a number of legislation to deal with this. What the particular one the Chairman's alluding to is the Construction Design and Management Regulations 2015, which deals with the actual works of operation, including make sure they're safe. Obviously, in a case like this, because the construction actually takes place on quite a circuitous route through the caravan site, I would expect that to be complied with on that route all the way through to right to the point of construction.
All right, thank you. Now we've got just Ward Member Prue Gray, which is just for this one.
Sorry, Chris, I'm going to have to sit while you're sitting, so let's pictures. Some workers. Right. I'm going to talk about... Oh, sorry. I'm only going to talk about the construction access with regard to the consultant's report, which is coming since the last meeting. I've got 5 photographs. They were all taken on the 30th of June, which was a Tuesday, in the middle of the afternoon during a working day. That time was selected at random and nothing was staged or pre-arranged. Okay. So this first photo shows the car park area by workshop 7, C7, which is supposedly oversubscribed and therefore can be used for access, and it's completely empty. Okay. I'm ready to move on. Hang on. Wait a minute, I know what I've done. I haven't got a slideshow. Let's go through that. There we are. Right, this is second photo of the area by workshop B1, which is also supposedly oversubscribed. It's also empty. The consultant has qualms about lorry manoeuvring space, and yet the double gates are a clear sign that this area has in the past been used for lorry access. Then we have the third photo. This is the first part of the access road into Groveland's Park, the mobile home park. It's just got one parked car as an obstacle. Lorries would have to go down this road and turn left on a right angle bend at the bottom, where they would find that. Not just the residents' cars, but also you can see the two sharp speed bumps in there as well. And then having gone around there, it's another right angle bend into this area, which is actually backing onto the site, so the site access will be through that lamppost. That is the residents' car parking area. There is nowhere else to put car parking for them on the site as a temporary measure while the construction traffic is going through for 6 months. When the committee discussed this application last time, you were unhappy with it. I see no reason for you to change your minds. It's not got any better. I don't think the road can take the weight of the traffic, and in fact where this photo was taken from, there's a very large crack across the middle of the tarmac where you can see something like tree roots or something like that has gone through it. It's split completely, and there's the old-fashioned sewer pipes under there, which are ceramic, which are not very far under the surface either. So I see no reason for you to change your minds. It's totally unacceptable to send that traffic through.
Thank you. And again, local member, any other local member wishing to speak? Yep, okay. Philip Holdsworth.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I speak both as a local member, but also as the chair of the Affordable Housing Implementation Group. I'm completely pleased that we're having additional houses built to add to this one. Yes, it's a difficult situation, and I quite understand why the residents would be concerned about the transportation difficulties of this particular site. But I think there's been a lot of work done on it, and running through the actual summary of anticipated vehicle movements during the construction. I would hope that this would at least reassure the residents that the council is taking every care in trying to minimise disturbance. So I will support the application.
Thank you very much. And now members of the committee again come to Rochelle because this is your ward.
Again, I'm very troubled by the delivery schedule here. I see no reason they can't go through the workshops. It seems like Woking Borough Council is just being difficult, to say the least. The residents there have no off-street parking. Their leases include being able to park on the street, so telling them they can't park on the street because a construction lorry is coming through would be inadequate. The curves are too small and too tight for articulated vehicles to actually turn very carefully without knocking out a few cars in the process, or possibly a fence or two. This is designed for small cars. It's not really designed for HGVs. I think that if you persist in recommending that the construction go through there, I would have to have a motion to say no. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members wishing to speak? Oh.
Yeah, I was just looking at the actual homes and the comments that it's on page 25 or 77, depending which one you're looking at. Housing says it's 100% affordable, but I can't see anywhere, unless I'm going completely blind, what code level they're being built to.
We'll get an answer on that.
Chairman, I can answer that. The code level has ceased to exist now. We don't have code level 4. It seems to be about
Drawn in budget.
they will be built now to standards by the bodies that oversee affordable housing, but certainly don't have to be up to any code level. I think I'm right in saying they were intending to build to that level anyway, but it would be voluntarily rather than by condition. Can I just answer one other question as well, by the way? One of the members mentioned articulated lorries. If you look at that list, none of those lorries are articulated. They're 8-wheel lorries, so they're not actually articulated lorries, but they are over that 50.
They're large lorries, so it would be very difficult for them to turn the small roads.
Yep.
They weren't
Okay.
mountain roads.
Okay. What was up your last point? Matt?
Well, it would have been nice to know that they ceased to exist. It totally bypassed me, I have to say.
It was announced in the budget, actually. It's in the way of the
You
budget
listened
for
to
some
it?
reason. They seem to have backtracked on a number of more green initiatives over there. I would point out, though, that just all social housing built by Wellington Council, and I think it's a requirement, Simon, I think you were actually built to a higher standard than private housing, which may well not have been the case 50 years ago.
That would have been a good answer. Well done. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Chairman. I think this falls in the category of must try harder. I welcome 6 new houses, and I accept that this probably meets all the planning legislation, but it does concern me that we seem, now I have to say I didn't go on the site visit, but it does concern me that we are taking these trucks past what are residential and a lot of people in them retired, where we have 2 very wide gates. I don't see it as a reason for rejecting the application, but as I say, I would suggest in future that Woking Borough try a bit harder.
Okay. Any other members wishing to ask? Tim?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So I did go on the site visit, and it was a couple of months back, and like Prue's photograph not showing any cars in that space, I don't recall there being any there on the morning that we went, albeit it was early. And I also agree with John's comments. I'm struggling to understand why that junction can't be used. I think we're all agreed that going through the mobile, the home area, they're going to put a banksman there to ensure it's safe. I don't understand why that bankman cannot be at the junction. The list shows us there's not going to be that many vehicle movements, so I would like to refuse it, but I do understand that the planning, we need some planning reasons to do it. It has to be more than just this junction, so I will be supporting it with a very heavy heart.
Well, the other thing to bear in mind is that in terms of normal planning considerations, we are talking here about the traffic associated with the construction, not the traffic associated with the use once the houses are built, if they're built. Like in my 11 years on planning, I don't recall an occasion when we've been able to refuse something because of concerns about congestion or difficulties during the construction phase. Our concerns have always been about the long-term implications, and it would obviously be not unreasonable to assume that the future occupants of the 6 houses are unlikely to be accessing them in HGVs, likely to be accessing them in private cars. So we need to just bear that in mind as well. I'll come back to you in a minute, Rochelle. Bob, and then Rochelle.
Yeah, just a quick one, Simon, on what you just said. Are you actually saying that it's not a valid planning reason for the construction?
We'll ask the professionals as well.
That's what I want to hear.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I'd like to just draw your attention to the guidance that's been issued by the Royal Town Planning Institute, and it's actually endorsed by CLG. And what that says is what is a definition of what is material planning consideration, and by definition what isn't. It talks about non-material planning considerations, and what it says as part of that is problems arising from the construction period of any works, e.g. noise, dust, construction vehicles, hours of working, and so on. So it's very clear in that advice that this is not a material planning consideration.
Can I come back on that? Yep. So what you're saying, if that's not a material planning consideration, the only thing we're deciding tonight is whether the principle of development and the application before us is the only thing we can decide.
Chairman, I can only advise that to refuse this application on the basis of the disruption during construction would not be something which is a valid planning reason.
Thank you. Michelle?
I would like to suggest that we require Woking Borough Council to deliver all the materials through Groveland's workshop as part of the construction delivery plan, Rather than turning down the whole plan, I would like, because we do need the houses, I would like to say that we require them to deliver all materials through Groveland's, not on the roads.
But the problem is, Rochelle, we do have a report produced by the independent consultants, I think the firms in Shinfield, which said they looked at the 4 particular options, and the report that we saw said that that was not an option available to us. It's not with, we have to remember, Rochelle, that whilst Wokingham Housing is wholly owned by the council, we're acting here as the local planning authority. We're not in a position to instruct Wokingham Housing what they should and should not do.
We have
we do have a valid application in front of us, and as I said in the preamble at the start, it is not our role to redesign applications. It's our role to determine what's here. If you put a proposal forward to refuse that, and it gets support, so be it. But I think we need to wait until we get to that point. Mary, could you just give us a little bit more of a steer on this in terms of the legal position, please?
I think Claire has obviously summarised it correctly. You've summarised it correctly, Chairman. If we make an unreasonable decision, we know what will happen.
Okay. My comment, though, is that we changed the construction delivery plan, that's all. We have done that before in several sites in the past, telling them they had to deliver through a certain location and not go through these certain side roads and things like that. That's all I'm requesting, is to change that.
Get a response from Claire. What prevents us from trying to change that?
Chairman, the view from the applicant, as you stated, that they don't feel that that's an alternative position. In the event that we did put a condition on there and refused to accept an alternative access to coming through to the Groveland estate, then they would have a right of appeal against that condition. And that at that instance, it's the same as refusing the application, because they can't go ahead and build it without.
They can. It's perfectly adequate there.
But if you put conditions on that an applicant is not willing to comply with, essentially what you're doing is you're rendering an application unable to be implemented, and you end up with a position where it's equal to a refusal, essentially, in practice.
They just don't want to do it, is the whole thing.
Anyway, John, do you want to go back?
Yes, I would. I mean, we quite often sit here and make judgments and approve unpalatable applications because they meet the guidelines. I just would ask that in future that our own company doesn't bring these types of decisions to us, so we have to make these difficult decisions. Thank you.
Who would be able
They just don't want to. They're saying that
Right. Well, firstly, obviously, Rochelle, you were making a proposal. Think you're going to make a proposal to refuse the application?
No, I was going to make just a proposal to change it, to put the delivery management plan through Groveland's.
But we're being advised by Claire that that's not something that they can do. So
I will personally vote against it then, because I believe that this is inadequate for the local residents, and it would cause damage to the streets and to their amenities.
So if there's no alternative proposal coming forward, we're going to have to put the recommendation that's in front of us to vote. On that basis, regardless of the outcome of that vote, would it be the committee's wish that as chairman I write to the applicant, encouraging them to ensure that developments that come forward in future address these issues more wisely? We can't really address this one as it stands now, but so that we learn from this and hopefully get improved applications in the future. I should do that, but that's not part of the formal decision. So members, I see no one else indicating they wish to speak. So we have an application that we considered in April. I was corrected, I thought it was May, in April, which further work has been done on. Other options have been considered, and for whatever reasons, but we've been told that they're not achievable. I certainly thought the photographs that Prue showed were very interesting since they were taken during the day, and that the knowledge spaces are in use, which did seem to be somewhat contradictory with what we're being advised. but we have to make a decision on what is in front of us, and there isn't an alternative proposal. So, for all those members wishing to support that application, F 2014-2611, please indicate that they're prepared to support it. So that is approved by 6 votes, and you'll be against rather than say. That planning application is approved. Right, members, we now come on to the carnival. Sorry, could I ask those who have finished, please, to leave? We now come on to the carnival pool planning application. This is an outline application. Well, it's a hybrid application, really, so it's good both. And David, I think, was going to be this evening. Just to members, just to recall that we attended. All bar one of the members attended site visit on Monday, where we went onto the site and we were able to get access into the cadets piece of land through the lock gates and view the site from a number of locations, both within the site and from beyond it, so the distant views we looked at as well. So straight across to you, David.
Item 17 on the agenda is the redevelopment of Carnival Hall site. As Chair just explained, there has been a site visit for this application and all being in the public realm and being read by all members. So I'm intending just to fly through the presentation very quickly. A lot of the slides are already included in the report. We can obviously go back to those if we need to as part of discussions when we come on to determining the application. So in short, there's a full description of the application within the report. In short, it's for demolition of the cadet facility, the bowling alley and Southgate House, with full planning application for 529 space multi-storey car park and 2,365 square metres of assembly and leisure class D2 floor space, and an outline application for mixed-use leisure buildings, commercial and residential uses, extension to Carnival Pool. So this is the application site, Carnival Pool Leisure Centre being located adjacent to the Carnival Pool roundabout, Southgate House towards Wellington Road, next to the bowling alley, which is then separated by the car parking facility before the cadet facility adjacent to the railway tracks. So that's slipped in there. These are some photographs of the site. There's a site visit on Monday, so I'll just flip through these very quickly. The top one shows the vegetation screening along the southern boundary, the middle one shows the cadet facility, and the bottom one shows Outfield Close, which is a new development located to the west of the site. And these are photos taken from the south of the railway line at Oakley Drive. So the application actually being brought forward predominantly under cost strategy policy CP14, which looks to secure the growth and renaissance of the town centre, including the provision of transport infrastructure to support the vision. The cost strategy is supported by the Wellington Town Centre Masterplan, which identifies the site as an opportunity site, which can provide mixed-use leisure quarters centred around an improved and extended carnival pool complex. And the master plan also begins to establish a parking strategy for the town centre parking provision that specifically identifies medium stay parking spaces to be provided within the carnival pool site. And the redevelopment of the Carnival Pool site has been cemented following the adoption of the MDD local plan. It's identified as Site 4 under that policy document, within which it promotes Carnival Pool for delivery of D1 community uses, D2 leisure uses, with flexibility for A3, A4 and C3 uses. And within that context, proposals should also have regard to the town centre master plan, which I just touched upon, and any long-stay parking requirement as set out in the emerging Woking town centre car park strategy. So, as part of the process, it's been an iterative process to establish how many parking spaces were to be delivered at the site, and through that process, 529 spaces have been proposed as part of this development. So moving on to the actual planning application itself, as I said, it's a hybrid application, so the part of it is in full, which is the existing surface car park, so towards the bottom of the site, and the remainder is in outline, so that's the hashed area on this plan. In terms of demolition, it's South Bank House, Southgate House, sorry. The bowling alley and the cadet facility are all to be demolished as part of the development. And as part of the development, this is an illustrative master plan to show what may come forward in the later phases, with Block D in this plan being the extension to Carnival Pool, and the remaining blocks within the outline phase showing commercial ground floor and residential uses. So moving on to the actual full part of the application, the parking spaces and the new leisure facility. You'll see this plan, which was actually submitted earlier today in response to comments that were made by members on the site visit. What I would particularly draw your attention to is the boundary retention, which has now been considered and incorporated into the plan. If I just flick back to this illustrative master plan, you'll see that the service road, which was previously proposed around the back of this building, was set against the boundary, and it was intended to remove all of that vegetation and include new planting along the back edge of the building. But following the concerns that were raised at the committee, the applicant has looked to retain as many of those trees as possible, whilst providing a usable service area in that location and including additional planting as may be required. And this will be explored further under proposed conditions 14 and 16, which relates to landscaping of the site, and condition 24, which relates to the servicing of the site. So just back to this plan, you see the parking on the right-hand side and the leisure facility, which is intended to be a replacement of the bowling centre at this stage, on the left-hand side. And then as you move up through the building, the parking actually projects out over above the leisure facility. So the leisure facility occupies the bottom two levels of the building. There's 9 stories in total proposed, albeit that they're half stories because of the change in levels between those stories. So in overall height, the building would measure 14 to 15 metres in overall height. These are the elevations. It's proposed to clad the building in a real wood veneered high pressure laminate cladding with a hit and miss application to lighten the structure and to allow daylight into the building. And it's also proposed to have extruded brick plinths and colonnades to give it a hue scale at street level. So these are closer details of the actual elevations with the extruded brick bases, and some CGIs indicating what it will look like at the ground level at that human scale. Looking forward, you'll see the cross sections are included, they were also included in the appendices to the report. You'll see it is a large building, it is larger than its neighbouring properties, but at the same time this is a town centre location, and moving on it has got good separation distance to neighbouring properties, in that it will cause no noticeable difference to the daylight sunlight levels that are currently experienced at those neighbouring properties. So these are some views from further afield. This is the view from from Elmsfield. The top view shows it without the development, and you'll see in the bottom view the red outline of the proposed car park. And this is a view from Cardboard Port roundabout, and again you can see in the bottom view the outline of the structure that's proposed as part of the full current application. These are give an indication of the massing as it's intended to come forward. Please remember that the part in the foreground of the picture is only an outline at this stage, and that's all matters are reserved, so that it gives an indication of what is coming forward, and also the massing of the full car park in relationship to neighbouring buildings. And in terms of the outline application, which will be worked up in more detail in the future, the concept is to provide a pedestrian link up from car park through the rest of the site up into the Wokingham town centre, of which there will be road improvements to Wellington Road, which will facilitate crossing in that location. Now at this stage, this is only an options appraisal. I understand it was undertaken in December 2014. It's a direction of travel, it's not approved, and it's intended that element will be worked up in more detail and then submitted and approved formally under condition 23 with a recommendation. Now, officers are recommending approval for the application. For your discussion, I'd just like to draw your attention to the members' update, which includes reference to the amended drawing that was submitted today and which I've just presented as part of this presentation. Includes certain recommended amendments to the conditions, or certain of the conditions. It identifies that 3 additional representations have been received in respect to the application, and it also flags up that we've received notification from Network Rail that they're proposing to provide additional parking down at the railway station. Thank you.
Right, thank you, David. I'm sorry, some of you have probably noticed that Claire, who's sitting next to me, has changed, and now Mark Cupid, who's the Delivery Programme Director. Mark is responsible for these major applications that are coming forward, such as this, and Town Centre, and the strategic development location. So welcome, Mark. Right. Before we come on to the speakers, I'd just like to get clarity on a couple of things. I'm glad to see that officers have considered the concerns of members on the site about the loss of the trees. This is however you look at it, a very substantial building, and whilst it's quite some way from established residential housing, it is actually quite close to those who actually drive the other side of the railway line, and I think the existing trees there, albeit that they are deciduous, they're of sufficient maturity and height that they do provide quite a bit of screening for what will be, however you disguise it, quite a big slab. I think the other thing is to draw members' attention to David, you mentioned the height. I think it refers to it as being 16 metres high, with 3 towers going up to 18 metres high. Those are obviously, if you like, focal points, but the principle is 16 metres high, which is not particularly dissimilar from the height of the buildings of the Southgate House, the office building, or the protocol 3-storey houses allowed in what's called outfield, which is allowed on appeal. Okay. Right, if we now come on to those registered to speak, could I ask Andrew Waters from Wellington Town Council to attend? I believe you're going to be using some slides.
Yeah, I'm going to use the slide deck. First of all, I'd like to contradict, there's been a few comments in the newspapers lately that Woking Town Council had reservations about this application. Actually, to the contrary, we're very much in favour of this application, and we're also in favour of a multi-storey car park in this location. Where our observations come, should I say, is the fact that we don't consider the car park as proposed conforms with the core strategy policy in terms of CP3A, really on 2 points. We don't believe that it is of an appropriate scale or mass and height. Basically, it's too big, to use common parlance. And it will be to the detriment of adjoining landowners, particularly those in Oakley Drive, because of its overbearing size and the potential for light pollution. What we would like to see is the top story of the car park removed, so it's reduced by 1 story. Now this obviously would mean the loss of 132 car park spaces. As I say, the design we believe is too large, and to a certain extent the consultants in their design access statement have alluded to this on pages 59, 61 and 65 of their report. So therefore, really 2 questions arise. Is there a need for the additional 132 spaces that this additional floor provides? From looking at what we've seen, the recommendation was based on a 2010 report for requirement parking spaces south of Wellington Road. What I think we'd like to know as the Town Council is what the strategy says now, as the revised updated parking strategy in 2014 was actually withdrawn as being incorrect. So that's question number 1. Is there a need for these spaces? If there is, could they be accommodated elsewhere? Have the council examined all other options for alternative edge of town parking? So our position really is the fact that only if the Borough Council can adequately demonstrate the satisfaction on points 1 and 2, would the Town Council consider supporting such a large car park, and only then if there was a redesign of the top story to soften the mass and to mitigate light pollution, therefore conforming to the Borough Council guide. And we've referenced a couple of points from the design guide that we believe bears out our argument here. The next point is the cadet facilities, which we believe is very important. And bear in mind, we're not talking about so much a building here, we're talking about our young men and young women who are prepared to put on a military uniform. We believe that's important. And we believe that before any permission for demolition of their facility is enacted, there should be full planning permission and construction should be complete of a new facility for these young people who represent this town so well. We then come on to car parking use. And really to summarise here, we know that there will be 9 parent and child parking spaces. We don't think this is enough for the new facility, and we'd like to know what standard is being used here. We also don't believe that there are enough residential parking spaces, and that the proposal as it stands does not conform to the MDB car parking standard. The next area that we come on to is the coach parking, and we believe this needs to be rethought. Only 1 coach drop-off space is being shown, and this is right outside the building near the entrance. It does not allow for any further coaches to queue to drop off without impeding other vehicles' access to the area. Currently there are often a number of coaches when there are galas, school parties, etc. The coach drop-off enters and parks such that the children can obviously disgorge on the roadside. There is nowhere shown really for these coaches to park. There are currently 3 existing coach parking spaces which will often be in daily use. We believe a minimum of 3 spaces should be provided for this application. And the final part that we have noted is that in this application there doesn't seem to be any mention of tactile paving, which we would like to see included as a condition. And that concludes the Town Council's presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thanks. And call on Peter Must or Barbara Young.
Or Anne.
Sorry?
Just the two of us.
I've got just got the two of you, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine. Right.
I've been told with anybody else.
No, and you're going to share your time, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You're representing the Wokingham Society?
I am.
And Barbara Young, you're representing this local residents?
Yes.
That's right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As the officer, we have 2 points we're concerned about. One, as Woking Borough Town Council says, the height of the carnival pool car park. But secondly, also Block E of the proposed leisure centre extension. First, in relation to the multi-storey car park, the officer's report makes clear that this is intended or ensues from the Highway Department's conclusion about the additional number of parking spaces needed in Wokingham by 2016. We do recognise that there was an appendix to the recent vision paper approved by the executive, which actually addresses the number of spaces needed. It estimates about 500 spaces should be provided. But the consequence is, as it's indicated, a building of no great architectural merit that will loom above the existing and the planned elevations of other buildings in this area and dominate the skyline as viewed from the town. And it's not necessary. In fact, the reduction of 1 storey, although it would entail the loss of 132 parking spaces, would, when measured against the minimum requirements for parking spaces, actually require only 52 spaces to be found elsewhere. And we think that number could indeed be accommodated somewhere else. For example, we haven't yet seen the final proposals for the Elmsfield parking, and possibly that would be a site to locate it. The other thing we're concerned about is that although we were shown 2 images of what the building would look like, they were not CGIs. They didn't actually represent what the buildings would be like on site, but merely what buildings will be in the way at the moment. There are trees, there's Southgate House, and therefore it's not a true representation. And we think that really there ought to have been a full CGI representation so you get a true image of what the heights would have been. So on those grounds, we urge that the committee should reject the application because of those considerations. Second, Block E of the proposed leisure centre extension. Although this is an outline application, the applicants are seeking approval for Block E to be 4 storeys high, that is almost as high as the proposed multi-storey car park, and further to the front of the site, and thus just as intrusive on the skyline as that building. No case is made for departing from the Masterplan guidelines that buildings in the town centre should normally be no higher than 3 storeys, except as has been argued for gateway and landmark buildings, but this meets none of those criteria. The intention is to provide additional commercial and residential units, and maybe this is for additional economic return, rather than to enhance the appearance of the site. So desirable that may be, we don't think it's sufficient reason to overload the site and to create a visual blemish. Indeed, were the car park to be reduced in height, then that would be the highest point, and we would say that should be reduced. Now, whether this is referring back for further consideration, imposing a condition, or merely rejecting that particular part of the application, we leave you to decide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The proposed multi-storey car park will be the tallest, if not the biggest, building in the whole of Wokingham Town Centre. There is not a single 5-storey building in the town, and I've only found one 4-storey building in the town centre. It will be an eyesore on the landscape, as its design is unsympathetic and out of local character. The Elms Road multi-storey car park is well underused, and doubtlessly this new one will not be popular either. And people will not park here and then walk uphill into the town centre. Also, its access road is inadequate, and there should be separate in-out roads. The 67 residential units and 3,000 square metres of commercial business do not contribute to leisure-led development and will result in the loss of much valued open space amenity. This proposal is indeed a massive overdevelopment of the site, and contravenes government guidelines of PPG 17. Is there anyone connected with this proposal that actually lives in Wokingham and is aware of its character and peculiarities? And finally, the carnival field is a public open space which has never been appropriated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got Sarah Morgan. Can you speak, Sarah? So we've got three people speaking in support of the application. So we've got Sarah Morgan from the Regeneration team, Mark Ashwell, who's the Deputy Executive Member for Regeneration, and Gwyneth Hewitts, and representing yourself. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Ashwell and I'm Deputy Executive Member for Regeneration and Communities. It's my absolute pleasure that we've been able to present to you tonight a result of 7 years worth of substantial consultation and workshopping dating all the way back to 2008. Regeneration is core to our council's vision, and we all agree that Wokingham Town Centre needs regenerating to thrive. This application is about offering current and future residents the facilities they want and need in their principal town. It's about sports, it's about leisure, and it's about recreation. It caters for the vast age range and diverse tastes of us Wokingham residents. This development will contribute to the high quality public spaces we seek, allowing us to relax and socialise. It will provide us with improved pedestrian links to our station and to our town centre. It will in turn give our town centre access to the cultural and entertainment facilities we deserve. And yes, it will also provide access to really good quality parking for the Wokingham automobile. This car parking will be easily accessible and provide a convenient route in and out of our town, accessing its services all year round. In 2013, we secured funding subject to planning permission for our proposed car park. This was from the Thames Valley Berkshire Local Enterprise Partnership as part of the Growth Deals initiative. This allows us to bring this car park construction forward to make sure sufficient car parking is available to support our town whilst we work on other phases of our town centre regeneration. So please support our application and allow us to get on with the job of regenerating our wonderful Wokingham town.
Thank you, Mark. Chairman, my name is Sarah Morgan and I am the planning manager within the regeneration team here at Wokingham Borough Council. We believe regeneration is critical to Wokingham's long-term success as a town, and that the proposals for consideration tonight are essential in delivering this success. These proposals are directly aligned with the Council's own vision, policies and guidance for the future of Wokingham Town Centre. In order to deliver the parking and leisure facility the town needs desperately, we have come forward with an application which delivers a comprehensive redevelopment of the Carnival Pool site as envisaged in the Town Centre Masterplan supplementary planning document. The scale and massing of the car park responds directly to the number of spaces which the Council's highways team have identified the town requires to support its longer term needs. The 317 additional public spaces proposed within the car park sits within this additional need identified by the highways team and endorsed by the Council's executive last month. The removal of an additional storey as proposed by the Town Council and supported by the Wokingham Society would mean that this identified need was not met and therefore would not be policy compliant. The scale and mass the leisure proposals respond directly to the Council's aspirations to create a flagship leisure offer which will provide the improved mix of facilities residents deserve and which will act as a leisure anchor to encourage people back to Wokingham Town Centre. In addition, the commercial and residential floor space will complement the leisure-led offer, and we have already had interest from the market in opportunities in this location. We have approached the design of this large-scale development sensitively, and through its design we have made every effort to address the impact of this development and ensure it can be integrated well into the town centre. The blocks are set back from the site edges to reduce their impact on adjacent sites, and we have demonstrated through the application that the impact on neighbours is acceptable when judged against the council's own policies relating to back-to-back distances, right to light and overshadowing. In particular, we have identified further opportunities for retaining existing vegetation and for additional planting and screening along the railway edge, whilst retaining the ability to maintain and service the multi-storey car park and bowling alley without impacting on the railway. The more contemporary car park design reflects local consultation preferences with the use of brick and wood. The cladding approach will create a light, natural appearance to the building, weathering well, creating shelter from the elements and allowing natural light and air to filter through whilst mitigating noise and light pollution. We have worked closely with the existing tenants, helping to rehome the cadets through improved accommodation, and we support the Town Council in their desire to ensure that this facility is in place as quickly as possible, and the planning application is currently with the LPA for consideration for an alternative site. We've worked with the bowling alley provider and we have worked with the existing leisure provider to understand current and future demand. This scheme meets the Council's own policies and contributes to the delivery of the Council's vision for a regenerated Wokingham Town Centre, and I therefore urge you to support this application.
Chairman, thank you for allowing me to speak with whatever guys I've got. I'm Willie Kirkson, and I've been chair of More Arts until quite recently for the past 10 years, and as part of that I was on the local strategic partnership. Mark refers to consultations going back to 2008, and I think I can fairly say I was at nearly every one of those, and I was rabbiting on about the same thing every time, which was a cultural hub for Wokingham. I can see that we actually haven't got what I wanted here, because I wanted something about the size of Westminster and equally as beautiful. But, you know, needs must, and there is something here that we can use. It does align with your vision, and I suppose the only thing in your vision I would change is that it's a great place to do business and an even better place to live. And it's the well-being of the community that is at my heart, and it's the only thing that I ever go on about. So the well-being of the community is to have somewhere where we can gather, where we can laud the people that we've got such talent in this area, and we've got large groups of people who... I've done it. Well, we're good. Summarise it is that please support this application because we need the space.
Thank you very much.
And I don't mind having the topic.
And Julian McGee-Sumner is local board member, please, and Julian. This is wholly within Westcott Board, isn't it? I am.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Julian McGee-Sumner. I'm one of two local ward members representing Westcott, where this application, I think, sits the majority within Westcott. I'm talking to you here tonight as a ward member for Westcott, where the Carnival Ball lies, but also with my awareness as a role as the Council's executive member for health and wellbeing.